Just over 20 years ago, Taiwan passed an amendment to the Copyright Act in a bid to help artists and musical creators obtain royalties from their works. At the time, it was hailed as a milestone that would protect musicians and promote cultural development. But over the years, it's become clear that the act has side effects harmful to Taiwan's music scene. Overzealous copyright holders have found ways to abuse the system and collect extortionate licensing fees from small businesses and individuals. Those who do follow the law find themselves grappling with paperwork and hefty fees. All in all, critics say the act has forced music out of Taiwan's public spaces. Our Sunday special report.
Colorful lights and an enticing beat get dancers on the floor. The dance hall at this club is where people can let go of their stress by singing to their heart's content. But the once carefree gatherings have changed over the past decade. Every now and then, a stranger will burst in and accuse the revelers of copyright infringement.
有一次，他说这个是他们音乐。
One time, they came in saying that their company had a copyright on the music and that we hadn't obtained a license. They asked us what we would do about it, so I told them that from that we would purchase a license from them. We also paid them 60,000 NT in compensation for the song that we were playing.
It may seem that music can be listened to and played freely, but that is not the case. In the year 2000, an amendment to the Copyright Act gave music creators, record labels, and copyright management groups the right to collect licensing fees. The revision was aimed at protecting the intellectual property of creators, but it's inadvertently caused big headaches for music lovers.
他一进来就讲说。 他就说你歌本借我看一下。
They came in and asked me to lend them the book with the list of songs. I handed it over. Then they said, "Oh, this song." I asked them what was wrong with this song. At the time, they said it was nothing. Later, they called out other people over and they asked to see the owner. Only then did they say that we were not allowed to use the song and that we had to pay a fine.
这附近有一家海产店，也是碰到这个问题，版权公司的人到海产店输入。
A similar thing happened to a seafood restaurant near here. Reps from a copyright company went to the restaurant and requested a song. I remember it perfectly. The title was Xiao Wei. They owned the rights to the song, so the company took the restaurant to court and demanded a settlement of 600,000 NT.
A fine of 600,000 NT could bring a small business to an end. The copyright rules have also affected the livelihoods of singing teachers.
同业的老师就是因为也是被版权所抓。
A teacher in this line of work was caught by a copyright owner and had to stop teaching. The fine was more than 300,000 NT.
Being unaware of the law does not exempt violators from fines, but some copyright owners have turned to abusing the protections by fishing for victims to claim compensation.
我们街头艺人是在外面唱，曾经被锁定了。好，那当然另外就是小型店家嘛。
Street performers singing outside have been targeted before, as well as small businesses like beauty salons or even clothing shops. People show up at the door and say, "You have to pay to play the music." They'll say it's 5,000 NT per month or whatever, and that if you don't cough up, they'll sue you and you'll end up paying thousands of dollars.
当你讲这个钓鱼的方式早年很有用我是收证人员，我故意保了。
That kind of fishing strategy you mentioned was very useful early on. To collect evidence for a case, people could just request a copyrighted song and take a video and photos so that the violator would have no way to escape.
Such copyright disputes aren't just limited to individuals and small businesses. Media outlets and online platforms have also been caught up in the storm. In 2022, a variety program called The Bing Bing Show was asked to pay 60 million NT in licensing fees. Users should pay, but just how much is a reasonable fee?
歌曲都会分成音乐著作的著作权，那就是词曲创作那个部分。那另外就是录音著作的著作权。
Songs are actually two kinds of copyrighted works. One is the musical work, that is the composition and lyrics. The other is the sound recording. It's usually not too difficult to obtain a license for sound recordings because all the rights are concentrated in a few entities. You can often do it via the record label or the distributor. So platforms and users can reach out to the record label or the distributor to obtain a license and negotiate the relevant fees.
利用别人的作品就必须要取得同意或授权，就表示要付钱的意思。
If you want to use other people's works, you have to ask for permission or obtain a license. That is, you have to pay. But different kinds of users may incur different kinds of fees. Public broadcasts, public transmissions, and public performances are three different kinds of uses. Reproduction is yet another kind of use.
Obtaining licenses for a song and paying the relevant fees can be a complicated process. Several copyright associations have formed in Taiwan to defend the rights and interests of music creators.
我们国内的集管团体是有5家啦，所以你光谈这个3公的权利音乐家录音的话，确实是要找5家。
There are 5 such associations in Taiwan. So if you want to get a license to broadcast, transmit, and perform the work in public, both for the musical work and the sound recording, you need to discuss the matter with all 5 associations. Every year, radio and television stations sign blanket license agreements with the associations. If you upload the program to YouTube, you'd have to also obtain reproduction rights. But the associations do not deal with reproduction rights.
Although television and radio stations pay high fees every year, they still sometimes encounter legal troubles. Several programs, including The Bing Bing Show, have been forced to shut down over the years due to exorbitant licensing fees. The variety show The Golden Age faced the same fate, as did a popular radio music show hosted by Mickey Huang. Copyright disputes have dealt a big blow to major media outlets as well as private users.
那现在的费用这么的多，那对一个所谓的教英语老师是真的一大的负担。
There are so many fees that it has all become a big burden for music teachers. It creates concerns, making them less willing to take on students. Of all the countries in the world, Taiwan likes singing the most.
Although it's neither unreasonable nor illegal to ask users to pay for music licenses, complicated application procedures and the risk of pricey disputes have slowly forced music out of public spaces.
光是我们周边的一个环中东路，全盛时期有12间，欢唱100。 然后这个包括华军街、新中北路。
Huanzhong East Road had a dozen singing parlors in its golden age. There was also lots of places along Huaxun Street, Xinzhong North Road, and Zhongshan East Road. But now almost all of them have shut down because they can't pay the licensing fees.
Join and download today to start exploring.
Copyright issues don't just cause headaches in Taiwan. In the era of online streaming, licensing has become a major legal issue in countries all around the world. In 2018, the U.S. passed the Music Modernization Act. The bill aimed to lower the cost of licensing songs and expand upon the rights of music creators to benefit both copyright owners and users.
在搜罗这些音乐的过程当中，当然必须一一去取得著作权人的授权。这个授权的过程当中，就是会耗费许多的行政成本。
If you wanted to compile all the music onto one platform, you'd have to obtain licenses one by one from each of the copyright holders. That came with high administrative costs. The Copyright Act of the past wasn't able to meet those needs, and that's why the US introduced the new Music Modernization Act. The main effect was that it made the licensing process less difficult and it lowered costs, so that people or platforms that want to use the music can do so fully.
Article 1 of Taiwan's Copyright Act states that the bill was enacted for the purpose of promoting the development of national culture. But the reality is that acquiring licenses to use any song requires engaging in many negotiations and paying multiple fees. Critics say this cumbersome and expensive process is detrimental for cultural development, but the government says it all comes down to market mechanisms. Meanwhile, the number of music programs is on the decline, and music is no longer played at department stores, cafes, or public spaces such as train stations. Even street performers are afraid of singing in public.
音乐创作人我认识非常多，这个素人也好，线上的人都有。其实他们的心态也是，很希望他写的歌到处都听得到啊。
I know a lot of music creators, including people who are just starting out and people creating music online. What they want is for the songs that they are writing to be heard everywhere. Imagine if you were strolling around the pedestrian area in Xini District, or walking along the Calligraphy Greenway in Taichung, and everything was silent. No music playing. It's detrimental to the growth of the music industry and the development of urban art in cities.
Taiwan's Copyright Act has been in effect for more than 20 years now. Though well-intentioned, it has given rise to an endless string of licensing disputes. Critics say the bill has driven music away from society.
以前我学生时候常常到台北的中华商场，当时
When I was still a student, I often went to Zhonghua Market in Taipei. I could walk along the street from the first block to the last, while hearing the entirety of Qi Qing's Yuan Lai De Wa. On the way back, I could listen to Dave Wang's Forget About You, Forget About Me. Music was our companion during our student days. I hope these copyright associations can think about this. If tomorrow the works by all these artists were to disappear from the streets of Taiwan, would their music continue to be passed down?
As music players shut off and street performers go quiet on the streets, is Taiwan destined to become a society living in silence? Only time will tell.